fact, Central Kenya or Mount Kenya is a typical example of the disparity or the gap between the rich and the poor. Single parenting is quite common in Mount Kenya. Could it be part of the problem?
We used to go there and buy sherry. And it was for the privileged people. It was not a drink for everybody.
I think you know Rigathi right now. Rigathi is doing Rigathi. He has to brag a little bit and do a little bit. But that is Rigathi Gachangua actually talking at a symposium in Mount Kenya that was addressing the issue of alcohol in Mount Kenya's country. What do you think about the alcohol problem in Mount Kenya and how can it be sorted out?
Think and think hard. What are these interventions that we can do? So the people of Nakada will tell you what they think. DPP will tell you what they think. DCI, National Police Service, County Commissioner Nyandama and your people, Wanakipara and your people, you tell us. MPs, you know. Speakers, unajua. MCA, nyinyi ndio mko pale kwa ground.
Rigathi Gachangua there is talking about calling DCI, calling the police, calling MCAs, calling MPs, calling everybody. In fact, the only other person that I'm sure I would call going that direction is the fire station. The moment it's everybody's responsibility to sort a problem, then definitely it's nobody's responsibility. And that problem cannot easily be addressed. You know, being all over the place is part of the problem. But I guess this was just the keynote speech and Rigathi Gachangua was just throwing things in the works. Some of those institutions that Rigathi Gachangua is talking about are institutions that have been there when this issue of alcoholism or the issue of drug abuse has been growing. I don't believe that the problem of alcohol or drug abuse in Mount Kenya and in Kenya will come from the usual sources. This issue of alcohol and drug abuse is a problem, it's a countrywide problem. As a matter of fact, the counties that are actually laughing or maybe thinking falsely that the problem belongs to Mount Kenya will actually be so surprised to know that the problem is countrywide. In my view, we have to define the problem. We have to really know what the problem is, and we have to pinpoint exactly the point of entry where we want to begin to solve the problem. Are we going to solve the problem by actually lamenting or putting in controls or maybe attempting to arrest the people who are already in the problem, who really don't know what they are doing? Is that our entry point? Or are we going to look at the youth? Are we going to start from primary school? And when I say primary school, I'm talking about education. You see, are we going to start and look at kids from the age of 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, you know, as a preventive measure, rather than looking at the problem, rather than looking at the solution as a curative measure? When you're targeting kids from the age of 9 to maybe 18, you are looking at various things. You're looking at activities, football, you're looking at table tennis, you're looking at all these games, you're looking at programs that basically the county government should provide, you know, for kids to be busy, you know. They have to have a safe place to run to, you know. Those are some of the areas that one needs to look at. A lot of activities. Playgrounds, what, you know, clown shows, you know, all this kind of stuff that actually will take away their thinking from alcohol. Education is key. And talking of education and defining the problem, universities can play a big role in doing research and finding out exactly what the solutions would be. In fact, alcohol and drug abuse is a typical problem that does not need a lot of resources that actually our own universities can really help. The other day, the president was doing something about, you know, about the structure of university funding. Research was a big part of it, and some of these universities in Mount Kenya and in other areas can help a great deal in terms of education and in terms of doing research. The other thing that one has to look at is parenting. You see, this issue of single parents, and particularly now, let me narrow down to Mount Kenya. Single parenting is quite common in Mount Kenya. Could it be part of the problem? Could single parenting or parenting be an issue that Mount Kenya leaders and the national leaders may need to look at? You see, if you bring up a kid single-handedly, you are a lady, for instance, and you bring up a boy single-handedly, and maybe some of the values of these single mothers may not be exactly so. You see, when you're talking about prostitution as a business, then you know you've gotten the son confused. So single parenting and parenting generally is something that needs to be looked at. It's something that churches too need to participate a lot in terms of family values and families. You see, there you can draw in parents, you can draw in the community. You know, maybe that could help. Maybe that could be part of the solution. You know, the other thing is the gap between the rich and the poor. It's actually very well manifested in central Kenya. In fact, central Kenya or Mount Kenya is a typical example of the disparity or the gap between the rich and the poor. Have these poor people given up? And by the way, how have the rich gotten their wealth? Is this the reason why youth have actually resorted to alcohol? Because maybe somebody can easily become a billionaire overnight? You see, some of these values and these issues of the disparity or the gap between the rich and the poor can also be a problem that actually needs to be looked at. There are issues of corruption. Corruption is a problem. And corruption could be part and parcel of the solutions could be part and parcel of the issues that we need to solve to be able to deal effectively with alcoholism in Mount Kenya and within other parts of the country. In my view, I'll look at alcoholism and drug abuse in Mount Kenya as a problem whose solution is long-term. You see, like I said, we probably need to begin to look at age 9, moving forward and working out those programs and going into other areas so that we look at the solution as will come through in maybe 5 years, in maybe 10 years. And also we look at it as a national problem. Because I can assure you in Nairobi, every other place is basically sherehe. Go to Kisumu, every other place is sherehe. This problem essentially is not only a Mount Kenya problem. Drug abuse and alcohol abuse is a problem that all counties, the 42 of them, need to look at. How can we change this national culture of sherehe every Friday, where actually a lot of people spend a lot of their time and resources doing sherehe? Thank you very much for tuning in. Welcome to Talk to Africa. My name